Hey, Ghost Machine fans, this one's for you.
Welcome to the Ghost Machine Fans Podcast, episode 12. We are 1 week out from the release of Geiger number 3, which means we are going to talk about it right now. I am Snoggle, aka Becky, and I'm joined by my special friend, Nick. How are you today, Nick?
I'm great. I'm fantastic. I don't want to be selfish because I really enjoyed having guests on the show, but I'm happy just to be back on the microphone with my special friend.
Aww,
and,
so nice.
Well, this is a good issue. You know, it was nice to just be able to dive into it with you, and I'm excited to talk about it. This episode is going to air on June 19th, if you recall.
It is.
And on June 19th, there's not a book coming out.
I am so upset.
Well, yeah, but what I'm getting at, Ghost Machine fans, is that means the reason we're talking about this one is this one came out a week ago, so everybody's had a week to get it and read it, which is why we're going to do our patented spoiler pause here in a few. Then next week, we're going to talk about a different book that'll still be Ghost Machine related.
Yes.
There are a couple of options. It's either going to be Geiger Ground Zero, or it's going to be the Blizzard story from the Image 30th Anniversary Special.
What if we had everyone vote?
Ooh, that's a really good idea.
They can decide.
That's a really good idea. Do they let you put polls?
Yes.
On the digital things?
Yes, they do. On Instagram and Facebook.
I think I've seen that before. You know what's funny about all that? Like, I know how to make neat videos with special, quote-unquote, special effects and stuff now. Like, Bruce and I were in the basement making one about a glow-in-the-dark comic book stand earlier tonight before he went to bed. But if I don't know it, I have no idea. So when you said you can do a poll on Instagram, I wouldn't know how to do that. So that might be your first engineering endeavor into the Ghost Machine fans.
Oh, excellent.
Instagram account.
More technology for me.
You'll be the poll coordinator. That's probably not what they're called.
No.
The people that maintain the poll.
No, but the important part is the fans will decide what we talk about.
Yeah, okay. So on the day that this airs, like the night of it, we'll put that out there. And you can, I guess they'll only have a couple of days. I'll just make her read it all right away. She reads fast.
I do.
Yeah, I'll make her read it all right away. And then it doesn't matter what you guys pick. Because it's, it's only like 3-4 total comic books between those two options. So
excellent. So we'll get the poll out, and then the following week, we do get 2 new books, right?
We do get 2, and that reminds me of some additional news.
Ooh.
Next week, we get Rook Exodus number 3? Yeah, 3. And Redcoat number 3. Remember, they were going to be staggered, but for whatever reason, they're not. I don't know.
Hey, that just means next week's a really exciting week for everyone.
Super exciting. Super duper exciting. Yes. And I did want to briefly speak about the hoopla. We touched on this, but I don't think we gave it the proper amount of attention when we brought it up. We were more excited about the name, which is probably what... I mean, that's fair, though.
Bless our hearts.
I even want to start doing it again, being obnoxious, just saying hoopla in different tones. Yeah, don't do it. But... Hoopla, we had mentioned, is like, we said it as an aside. We were talking about like all the different places you can read the comic books, and how if you don't have a store near you, you could read one on digital stuff. And Hoopla was one of those places that like Ghost Machine had mentioned. And I did a little bit more digging. I signed up for Hoopla, I should say. I understand Hoopla better now, and I want to tell everybody about it.
Yeah, you used my library card.
Pretty sure that what you just said, everybody was like some sort of federal crime. So let's just say that I helped you sign up for Hoopla.
Oh, okay.
Just to clarify, in case the feds are listening.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. it's neat. You go into Hoopla, and it is not a paid digital comics service. It is a library card thing, and it's not just comic books. There's a ton of audiobooks. Our good friend Kyle, he uses it to listen to audiobooks like every day while he walks his dog. And it has all the Ghost Machine stuff in it. And it has it come out, like, I believe on the day that it comes out. Like, you don't have to wait. So you quite literally, if you're a digital comic book reader, unless you want to have, like, I like to have some of that stuff forever. So I buy some digital comics, but I almost always have the physical ones too. But stuff that I want to, like, read a million times, I might buy it digitally. Whereas if you get it on Hoopla, you're going to rent it and you, like, borrow it rather. So you have, like, a limited number of them, but I don't think all the major comic book companies just put out, like, the issues when they come out that day for free if you have a library card. And that's really cool because there's no element of, like, oh, can I beat this? I mean, you want to treat it with respect, but you can, like, actually read it and not stress out about its condition or whatever. Not that everybody does.
Like,
that.
Oh no, now it's going to be rated a 3.2. You're never going to get anybody out of this.
Never going to get any out of that 3.2, she said. My impression is that the comic books that are available digitally on this service are as a result of those who create those books making them available to these institutions in one way or another. Because you put your library card number in, literally. It asks you what state you're in, and then you put your library card number in, and then you're in. And you can borrow the books and read the books and return the books. It's really cool. So...
Don't we have a shout out?
Yes. Let's talk about the shout out for this week. This shout out is to a very top contributing member of the Facebook group, and that is Mr. Neil Tracy. Neil does some really cool and consistent things for the group. For example, he will share the League of Comic Book Geeks stats, which give us insight as to how many subscribers each of the ongoing series is gaining each week. And imagine why that might be important to us, Snoggle. Why?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah.
Because we want Ghost Machine #1.
Yeah, that's true. Because, yes, Ghost Machine #1, for sure. But the thing about this is, usually when something launches, there's a big bunch of jump on, right? When it's new and fresh and exciting. And what Neil is doing is because he's sharing this information with the group, which is almost to 1,000 members, like within 20 or something now. He is allowing us to see that even though, like, the #1 issues have already come out with 1 million variant covers and rock and roll, even then, every week, there still are numbers are increasing. So the only way that we're going to hopefully make these series ongoing forever and not turn into a situation where every 12 or 24 or 36 or sometimes 50 issues, then it's like, we gotta do another #1 because people gotta buy another #1. And, like, I get it. There's a reason for that. I would rather them do that one day if they have to just fire it up and do whatever. I'm not saying that they have to, but who knows? There are smarter people than me that know about that from an industry standpoint, marketing or whatever. But the only way that this is going to go for super duper long and, like, really be a universe that sticks around as a shared universe for a long time is if we can get it to the point where every week where there's, just a normal, like this week, this is quote unquote a normal issue, right? Like there are 2 covers and then there's a fancy one. But when you're still gaining numbers with that, it's indicative of, like, a longer thing. And if we keep doing that, then these issues are all going to get to, like, 100. And it's going to be awesome.
I have no doubts.
Yeah. And in general, Neil contributes. He does this really cool thing. He's like a speculator, like me. He, like, pays attention to the stuff. And in the group, when he sees stuff that, like, he has already, or, like, has enough of already, because he buys a lot of duplicates, he posts about that too. He will let people know, like, hey, you should get this. If you don't have this, you should get this. This is a good price. Because he watches the auctions and stuff. And so it's cool to have that type of mindset.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
to help people. Oh, that's right, because you see the posts and stuff.
I do see the posts.
You're in there. Yeah, you're just creeping around.
I know.
Doing the Snoggle move.
Yeah. I would like to shout out me.
Okay. Carry on.
Kidding, but you were talking about growing the fan base, and I have had 2 of my friends who are not avid comic book readers. Maybe they have been in the past, or maybe sporadically, but 2 of my friends have started reading, and now they're waiting every week for new copies as well.
So they've read everything up to this? Oh, wow.
Yes, even my friend Eric he started a pull list for it.
Pull list?
What is it?
No, you're right.
Pull.
No, you said it right. I just wanted to, I was just like, I was in awe, and I was saying, yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Because that's somebody that doesn't read comics. Right?
I think like
very
in the past.
Like, in life,
not like your level of reading comics.
Whatever.
That's not, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I love comics.
Sure. Yeah.
But it would be like, you're not at my level of reading the types of books I read.
Murder mysteries. My thing with our friend Eric, though, is he is a good example of someone that has not read really any comics in years and never in any frequency, right? Like at least I've talked to him about it. This is something different. He didn't have to go. We're going to have him on the show now that we're talking about him so much. I'm just saying it's a good example. Like, you don't have to go learn a bunch of stuff. You don't have to go buy 15 omnibuses for, and read and catch up. And so you can finally know what's going on right now. You can go catch up real quick, and then you're right where they're at, where you get to read stuff as it comes out, and it's really neat and it's really exciting. So that's really cool. That's a good shout out. Way to come out of left field with that one. Yeah.
You're welcome.
So we are talking about Geiger number 3 this week. We're going to talk about the covers first, and then the content. So this is a good time.
Spoiler alert.
That's what I'm saying. You'll do it. Go ahead. Tell them. What should they do right now?
Pause. If you have not read Geiger number 3, because we are about to spoil absolutely every single panel.
Yep. And this is Geiger number 3, the one that came out in 2024.
Last week.
June 12th. Yes, June 12th, 2024. So if you haven't read that one, run out to your local comic book shop, pause the podcast. We will wait for you. We will be so patient. And then when you get back, you can press play and you will be ready. This issue has 2 covers. And the first one is by Gary Frank and Brad Anderson. And it's pretty cool. It's a pretty sweet cover. It's the one with all the library books falling on him. Remember that one? Shout out to a friend of the show, Brad Anderson. On that cover, the shadows on the books, I was like, how the heck does he figure out how to make all the shadows on the books as they're falling just right in reflection of the fire? That's one I really want to ask him about. It was a sweet cover, And then there was a really neat kind of retro feel B cover. Did you see that one?
I'm holding it in my hands.
They don't know that.
Oh, well, they know now.
Okay. Now they know.
Yeah, you can tell it's super retro. I love this.
It is really neat. Do you know what it's an homage to?
I don't. Why does it say Dino?
I think it's Dino. Now, this is one that I would love to be corrected on because I don't know the gentleman personally, but he has been kind enough to communicate with us a bit on Instagram. I believe that is what the artist goes by. The artist's name is Dean Haspiel. That's probably either Dean Haspiel or Haspiel. I have a feeling it's Haspiel, but both could be wrong. Either way, we have been sharing some really cool stuff that he has drawn on Instagram lately. And this is a cover he did. And it is an homage to the Incredible Hulk. That
makes a lot of sense. Without you even showing me the Incredible Hulk cover, just storyline. Beautiful though. This is awesome.
Really cool. And they just tugged on your emotions. Like, this book, for some reason, we always buy the physical and the digital. We like to support our local comic book shop every time. But usually we get a chance to look at the digital, like, right in the morning of the day it comes out. And I read it, like, fast before I read the physical copy or put the physical copy in a box. But in this case, there's something going on where the digital is releasing a week later. It'll release the day of this episode, if I understand correctly. And the thing about that is I remember this, Snoggle read this before me. I brought it home and I gave it to her. She read it before me. And it was sitting on the ottoman, like on an ottoman. And I was standing over the ottoman and I started to open it up. And I just I wanted to read it so much as soon as I saw Vietnam, because I knew that it was starting with Joe, that I stood there in this horribly uncomfortable position. I was like, oh no, I have to read this right now. Again, I had I think food in one hand that I was preparing for Bruce because I had walked over there, and I was just like, oh no, I have to read this right now, because I didn't know they were going to immediately give you Joe.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
We just deep dived him too, and I am so in love with this character.
Junkyard Joe?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the first 3 pages of this comic book. The first page we don't have to talk about super long.
Yeah, because it's a memory flashback. Which
Right.
they make pretty apparent by the last panel here. Which I do like this added that you can tell it's from Joe's vision. Right?
You mean the...
That's Joe looking at it, at the whole scene unfold with Buddy talking to the
soldiers?
Yeah, so this was taken from Joe's memory.
Right. Yeah, and it says memory source.
Yeah, I think that's really cool, because then on the second page, we get a couple more, and we'll go into it, but 2 more memory sources, and then it's goes red, and it's locate. So I wonder if those are 2 different sides of Joe. Because the blue seems to be I'm recollecting.
This is my favorite character in this universe. So, the first panel, it's a big panel. He's back in Indiana, right?
You think he has a home he wants to get back to, Muddy. So he's looking at his old home, and this is obviously after the happenings.
So the top of the panel says 25 years from now. If you look at this Joe, he's got the top half of his gear is burnt off, and he has it appears as though he has the wound on him from when he fought Geiger.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is after he fought Geiger.
So 25 years from now, this is after his fight with Geiger, is what you're saying.
It's not 25 years from his fight from Geiger. It's 25 years from present day, which also happens to be shortly after his fight from Geiger. But they fought in Colorado. And so now he's in Indiana. And I'm okay with that. But that's kind of interesting, because that means that he went all the way from Colorado back to Indiana after remember, NORAD powered him up and let him go. So to me, I didn't notice the blue.
Well, it's interesting. Let me touch on a couple of things. First of all, huge shout out to Brad with the shading and the light when he's looking at this barn, the sun spots.
Mm-hmm.
That I think it's fantastic.
Reminds you of the lights on the car.
Yeah, it's just really, really good. So it's the first page, we're seeing this Vietnam, and I find it very interesting that while he's in the present, he's recalling those memories from the past. But we know in some degree he was reprogrammed, because you see him looking at his old home with Muddy. You even see the memory source. And then he kind of clutches his head, and he gets another memory from Redcoat. It's just interesting because it feels like Joe is fighting with himself, with his reprogramming and who he was before.
And the reason that's indicated is when in the panel with Redcoat, it's still blue, and it says memory source, Washington, D.C. It doesn't give you a date, which I wish it did. It's important that we know what Simon says, and that Simon is in this comic book at all. Like, it's significant, you know what I mean?
It's all coming together.
Yeah, it's kind of awesome. And he says, "Oh no, I'm not taking the blame this time, even if it usually is my fault. Go get Geiger, Joe, and be bloody quick about it."
Find the glowing man, you walking garbage can.
Yeah, so there you go.
I mean,
then after, that's the important part. The significant detail you pointed out is that right after that, his vision, it changes from blue to red, and it changes from memory to locate, and it says Geiger Tariq. And then he gets his uniform out of the closet in this home, which is still Muddy's home all the way back in Indiana, which he must have walked to from Colorado.
Yeah, I'm interested.
And I'm okay with that, but
we won't have answers for a bit, but this is interesting.
Yeah, because now it's like, well, you were just fighting him. You had to get another helmet and a shirt, though. So you walked from Colorado to Indiana, and now you're going to go back and look for it in Colorado.
Well, we'll see.
It's a long walk for a shirt and a helmet.
Yeah, he's pretty fast.
Yeah, it'd be cool if he could
Who says
fly.
he had to, who said he had to walk?
It'd be awesome. Or if he could just totally teleport, and it was like, Jeff Johns is like, haha, I'll keep that in my back pocket.
We'll see. This kind of opens doors that we don't get answers to, which I really appreciate from a writing standpoint, because we don't really get answers to this in this book. So there's more to come, and that's super exciting. So wonderful shout out at the beginning.
Also, Ghost Machine fans, we tried to make this episode especially immersive for you because you can hear the pages turn as we go, since we're reading a physical comic. Which is fine. And how appropriate, they're in a library.
They are in a library. First of all, our King of Letters.
Yeah, those are pretty neat.
That's really not what are books good for anyway. Huh.
Yeah, that's funny after hearing him talk about how finishing a book was like losing a good friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is excellent.
Yeah, that's really neat. I bet that effect is called something. What does it make you feel like when you see... So Ghost Machine fans, we're talking about the first page of the story that then goes back to being about Tariq Geiger and his Sancho Panza, Nate. They're in a library, and Nate is essentially, in brief, saying, isn't it interesting that in a world where nobody has anything, nobody comes looking for the books, nobody comes looking for the knowledge? And that includes him. He's like, yeah, I don't like books either. It makes sense.
I'm sad that Nate's from Dayton, Ohio. It's very close to us.
It's super close. And how does he keep that whole blue jumpsuit deal under his armor so, like, banging? Like, it's great that Brad can do that, but it is just, he's got to have something figured out there in the wasteland.
I do find it interesting, and we find out later on, like, he's almost putting on this persona, like, I don't like books. Books are stupid. Because I really would be hard-pressed to, even if you threatened to melt my skull, I couldn't recall a single one of them. Lies.
Yeah, you remember where the wild things are. You remember Goodnight Moon.
Mm-hmm.
I can go all day.
Everybody poops.
Didn't read that.
You really didn't?
Everybody poops. No.
It just seems like a very ridiculous thing to say, because everybody remembers one of the books they either had to read and they were forced to for school and they hated it. Like, even a bad memory is memorable. I never liked books. I'm like this. I even told you when I was reading it, I said that man cannot be trusted.
Nah, not with those pants.
Mm-hmm. And he just keeps on going. Like, here's what really bothers me about Nate. And obviously, Geiger and I agree. Because Geiger, I mean, he gets them. You know someone loves books, and that's like the surrounding of their mission personally for themselves is to find books. And you just start talking crap about them continuously to obviously a man who is unhinged to some degree and radioactive. Like, what an idiot.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. He's like he reminds me of like an 8-year-old, what a kid might do, because what ends up happening is he shouts, because no one wants books. No one wants books. Like a kid in like a tunnel wanting to make the echo.
And shout out to Rob here.
That was cool.
That, like, the way the letters, like, really echo throughout, and you can tell that that's just spectacular.
Mm-hmm. And they fade, too. As the echo fades, the letters representing the sound effect of the echo fades. So, that's awesome.
Side note, too, and I cannot be the only person who read this comic and immediately Googled what A Dangerous Friend was about.
You're talking about the book that Tariq is looking at, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is it about?
Okay, so this is a very short synopsis. One, I have to read it, but I do think that book was picked for a reason. It does have to do with different parties during the Vietnam. It's like set in Vietnam. It does deal with betrayal, which makes sense, but it has a lot of themes about neutrality. So says the internet and Goodreads after several reviews that I read. But I am going to read it. But I do believe it was put in there for a very obvious reason. Whether it means like Tariq being neutral with his feelings towards Nate, the idiot. Sorry if you like Nate.
I'm neutral on Nate.
Or our dear listeners.
Nah.
But I think it's an interesting book that they put in there that ties in with the story that we're actually reading.
I'll take you a step further. It happens to be the book that he was reading that he burnt up in the previous one, because he mentions that to Nate.
Oh, yeah.
And then, we're not going to skip super far ahead, because we're going to make sure we don't miss anything, although, as you go, this book gets damaged as well.
Yeah.
So, perhaps, I didn't do the research, I didn't know any of that neat stuff that you did, but perhaps that's representative of him being unable to maintain a neutral stance.
Well, from what the synopsis I read is the beginning of A Dangerous Friend makes it seem like neutrality is something that can exist, and the author destroys it throughout the book in like a very good way. Like shows like, no, you actually can't be neutral. You have to pick a side. I am going to read it. It is on my to-read list. I'm currently reading 2 other books, so I gotta finish those first.
Awesome. Way to do your research.
You're welcome. And they argue about the books. I still do not trust Nate. And he does things later on that make you trust him, but just like, he's like, I bet you'll sleep a whole lot better when you don't have to have those rods stuck in your back anymore. And then it goes on and he's like, a whole lot better. I don't know. I don't know how I read that. Mm-hmm. Is that just me?
I mean, he does still seem to be goofy enough to be genuine.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge, because it's like, what is this leading to? Is this leading to him eventually meeting up with Simon in Geiger 80-Page Giant? That's the big question on like a lot of fans' minds, is when the heck does he talk to Simon and ask Simon to kill Tariq? And it's a sad moment for you. It's like a flashback, because the first time you told us about liking Barney so much, no, I guess it wasn't when you read How He Met Barney or How He Got Barney, I think is the name of the story. But this harkens back to that because he's like, I know you don't like sleeping in the library because it reminds you of your mommy.
All the color in these panels do such a good job of reflecting, like, one, yes, it's nighttime, right? So they're using candlelight, but it almost feels very reminiscent and sad because even for Tariq, like, Barney is so important to him. And again, like, such a good job when it's a flashback and it's kind of green.
Mm-hmm. It's obvious, like that filter type deal.
Oh, yeah. Like, in the middle of these 2 pages, we all have bad memories. And it's the evil ants eating, Barney's mom. I shouldn't laugh at that.
You're laughing at evil ants because it was...
ants.
We had a shtick for a couple episodes about the ants. Are they only ants? No, they're scorpions too. Oh.
Yeah. And then the last 2 here, it shows Tariq with his arm on Barney, right? And then right next to it was the memory that presumably, like, Barney had of his mother.
In the adjacent panel.
Yes. And I just, the symbolism there is very... Tariq is Barney's mom.
Yes. Let's just hope they never get separated.
Oh, gosh. Stop it. Well, everyone's read it, so we'll get to that. But this is just, storytelling with only, in these 2 pages, there's maybe 20 words.
Fantastic point. And there are many, many panels. We see a lot of visual storytelling as he's reviewing the note that he got after they did the side quest. So now he's going for Ash Arden in Lewiston, Montana. Yeah, that's awesome.
So then obviously the morning comes and Nate is being stupid again. Which is just like, he was so cooped up in the casino with the crazy king, Prince, Joffrey. Obviously, Tariq knows more than he does, and he argues with him. Like, let's just go straight through.
Yeah, well, but that's because they're stopped at an airport, right?
Yeah.
And Tariq is saying that an airport is a breeding ground for the Oregon people. You hear that, Mike? Your people are breeding in the airport. One day, Mike will be there. Right now, he's doing university finals. So I told him, you got to finish that before you come on the show. That's right, Mike. Anyways, they're kind of still scoping it out when they get attacked, actually, right?
They are. One thing that bothered me about Nate, and obviously Geiger agrees, he's like, who cares how many are in there? You're the glowing man. Like, you can just explode, is what he's basically saying. And even though these Oregon people, kill people and take those people's organs and either eat them or replace them into themselves or other Oregon people, he says, I don't feel like killing hundreds of people today. So he still values their lives, which I think is wild. I'd be like, yeah, go kill them all.
Yeah, or he's so BA that he just really doesn't have the time today. Because he could just probably kill lots of people with his abilities.
I mean, we'll see. He didn't kill Nate.
Yet.
No, but he didn't kill him in the past. When he was still, very much filled with rage.
Sure.
He didn't kill Joffrey. When Joffrey, wait, did he later?
Maybe that's why he's a dangerous friend.
Who's a dangerous friend?
Nate.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Tariq. But they're arguing, and then, of course, Nate gets shot.
He does, and it is... We hear Barney kind of start to... And then an arrow comes and gets Nate, right in between his breastplate, in the perfect spot to actually get past his armor that he carries around everywhere. And then we just get this really neat, kind of hilarious group of Oregon people.
One of them has a shirt on that says "Kiss the Cook."
Yeah.
Which I think is just excellent. The woman, I'm assuming that's a woman organ person.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, her teeth are sharpened.
Oh, are they?
Oh, they're sharpened.
Oh, that's a
into little daggers.
Pretty neat, Mr. Frank.
And it looks like, and it could just be a matching outfit. So that's either an insane asylum outfit or a nurse's outfit.
Yeah, I've always wondered if like we could get some trading cards or something, maybe like a Dungeon Master's Guide or something about groups like the Organ People, because I like them. It's cool. I get a kick out of them taking the post-apocalyptic cannibal thing to a slightly different level. But it's been 20 years since the bomb went off. So
they're thriving.
They kind of look like, you know what I mean? Their longevity looks as though it's been perpetuated. These people they look like they're in their, 30s or 40s.
I need your parts.
Yeah. And then Tariq pulls out his boron rods, transforms, whips one straight into the eye of this guy who's got like a brain growing out of his head. And I wasn't sure if you would think that this whole, like, two-headed organ person saying that he's like Barney, getting a hold of Barney and trying to hurt Barney was, like, some sort of foreshadowing, perhaps.
Well, I will say, so Nate does look very, like, scared. Barney, look out. And, okay, there's a couple of things that happen here. So, Crazy Lady is about to just, like, stab Nate with 2 very big knives. And Barney saves Nate by, grabbing her by the head. And then Nate is like, oh my gosh, Barney, look out. And I audibly gasped when it was like me, and likes coming from one head, me's coming from the other. And I was like, oh my gosh, if they rip Barney in half and I turn this page and Barney is ripped in half, I'm going to freak out.
I thought that was possible.
But I did too, but it freaked me out.
Yeah,
And then it says, no more like me. Like, I'm going to rip this dog in half. And I felt pretty emotional.
But it didn't happen that way.
No. Then I turned the page and I was like, and this made me like Nate, because obviously this giant 2-headed organ dude would kill Nate. He was about to rip Barney in half. And Nate threw, I believe, books at him.
And said, let him be, foul creature.
Mm-hmm. And then, this, right?
What's this? What are you pointing at?
The green.
The green what?
Tariq is just destroys that 2-headed, I don't even know what you'd call him.
Mutant. Cannibal. Mutant cannibal. Mutant-cannibal.
Beautiful. Beautiful color. Beautiful draw. Love it.
Do you remember how Brad said he tries to avoid the use of green and Geiger so that when he uses it, it sticks out more?
Oh, yeah. It's so good.
Yeah, super good example of that. We're talking about the bottom panel, right where the 2-headed guy gets it through the chest, and then he's basically like vaporized.
Oh, he's gone.
He's gone. And then again, like you were saying, I didn't want to jump ahead earlier. Dangerous friend. Another copy. Burned.
Mm-hmm.
So they win the fight and all. But as it keeps going, they fight about it. He has like kind of like a brief little monologue where he's talking about how significant books are.
Mm-hmm.
And why he feels that Nate will never understand that. And it has a great deal to do with his family, which is why he feels that Nate can't understand that.
Nate pulls me back and forth between I hate him, I don't trust him, and I feel bad for him. Which, excellent job, Jeff. Like, seriously. Because I was definitely Team Geiger on his feelings about books. Like, you don't understand. It's infuriating. And then he says, they're my only escape from all of this, my only escape from my life now, and from people like you. And you just see Nate's reaction after all is said and done. And he does look pretty sad. And then we see him sneak off in the middle of the night.
And let me tell you, I thought there was a good chance that was the moment that he was going to go, like this was going to be the turn. I did not expect what was about to happen. And I don't know if it was intentional to try to make me suspect that on Jeff's part and Gary's part. But the main reason is it shows him several panels as he's like getting up and getting ready to go, / showing us that it's nighttime and where the dog is. And the dog notices him as he's walking away. And he says, "Bye, doggy." And he taps the dog. And it made me think, this guy's not coming back. Or if he does, he's not coming back peacefully.
I also wish Barney would have listened to this sign here that says, "Wait here."
Why is that?
Because when he follows...
It's just Nate's fault.
It's like Nate tries to do well, but he continuously does not. And then morning comes, and Tariq wakes up to a present. Several books.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. He says he found another library, got him those books, and I'm sitting here like, what? You know, like, are you kidding me? I thought he was going to come back with like a gang of people or something. Like, or even like the Queen from Camelot, just something. But no, he went and got him a bunch of books, including a third copy of A Dangerous Friend.
Yeah, and we get a little bit of insight to Nate, which he could still end up selling Tariq down the river because he's got a very childish mindset. You know, Tariq is reading books that remind him of like when him and his family used to read. And the thing that Nate brings is the Velveteen Rabbit.
Yeah.
Which we all read when, you know, if you read it, you were little.
Mm-hmm. You had it read to you.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. He said he misses his family too. His mom, the teacher from Dayton, Ohio.
Mm.
Then Tariq, "Where's Barney?" And I'm like, oh no.
Tugging on your heartstrings. The next page is gonna tell you the doom's coming. To that two-headed radioactive dog.
I have so many questions.
So that this is significant. It is. This is the very last page of the comic. And it's the electrician guy. The guy that has been following him since issue 1. And on the last page, it's been a common thing. It's been him zapping, and I think in one, and just talking in another one. And he's got Barney in the back of his super APC-looking military-esque vehicle or whatever, in a cage, growling at him.
He's using Barney as bait.
Yeah, you know, and it even shows on the very last panel, it takes up half the page, and he's zapping Barney with this crazy Rob Lee joint, this KRRZZZZTTT. As he looks like he's essentially like super tasing Barney, which is really ridiculous because it's like, regardless of Barney's degree of pain, it's not going to summon Tariq any faster. You know what I mean? Like, you have the bait, leave the bait alone, give him some food. Not a nice fellow, and it's really neat because there's like on the next page, as usual, it says some sort of preview, and it's 2 against the inhuman hordes of the organ people. And I say it that way because it's, if you remember old school monster movies that start, the ones they always start with. And then it would be something like this, you know what I mean, after they would do that. It would be pretty cool. And it's neat because he's like on the top of this, him and Nate, on a big old pile as organ people looking like zombies, and they're just like chopping them away after him. So,
what a way to finish a book.
I know.
Next month, dog rescue.
Dog rescue.
Beautiful letters.
That's right. It says dog rescue. Doesn't say dog funeral. It says dog rescue, Ghost Machine fans.
Exactly.
It's going to be fine. He won't go the way of swine.
It's fine. I'm fine.
Everything's fine.
How dare you compare Barney to Swine right now?
I didn't. I like Swine. He's cool. That's the issue wrap up for that. And hey, don't forget, there's also a very cool Muddy Davis bio in the back of the book. Make sure to check that out. Makes me want them to release trading cards. So this means it's time for listener mail. And this listener mail, we are going to play for you, Ghost Machine fans, because this listener decided to record the message and send it to us, which is highly encouraged. And so we wanted to share this with you.
Hi, this is Andy. I listen from Pennsylvania, the Philadelphia area, and my question is about our hosts and what you were reading. Becky, it sounds like you're new to comics. Can you tell us what genres excite you, or a favorite author, or a book that you would read and reread? And for your special friend, what other comics, besides Ghost Machine, are you reading now? Or do you have a series you consider a favorite, or something you would reread? I'm grateful for your commentary and insights into this exciting line of books. Your passion comes through, and it sounds like you're having fun too. Keep it up.
So that was extremely cool. So thank you very much for your kind words, Andy, and for being an innovator by sending us a recording. So we would love if you have comments or questions, Ghost Machine fans, that you do that, although writing it is fine. But you can send it to ghostmachinefans@gmail.com. So Andy wants to know what you like to read, Snoggle.
I think mainly it is fantasy. I actually was looking through my Goodreads when I was thinking about answering this question, and the majority of the books I read are fantasy related. Right now, I'm finishing the Scholomance series by Naomi Novik. It's pretty good. I reread the first two from it to finish it off. There is a new series out called the Emily Wilde series by Heather Fawcett, and I really like this series. The first one's called the Encyclopedia of Fairy. And I've also read The Shades of Magic by Victoria Schwab or V.E. Schwab multiple times. I would highly recommend those 3 series. I
Cool.
like to do that.
And
I like to read.
Recommendations out of it too.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I like to read a lot. I am a super busy human with a super busy mini human. So I do like that I can read comic books in short doses, especially digitally. But I do go to my local comic book shop every single week, and I do have a pull list on which is obviously all the Ghost Machine stuff, all of the Spawn series right now, which are up to 5, if you include the new Sam and Twitch. And typically anything Valiant comes out with, I get. And I've read all of the Krakoan era of X-Men, which is coming to an end right now. I'm usually behind on that, like 6 to 9 months, because of how much I buy the books in bulk when I buy them. Because I don't buy the Krakoan books at the store. But anything that Mike Mignola prints, I buy a physical and a digital copy of. I've read all of BPRD and Hellboy, I know that those sound like all the same thing, but those are 3 different series for those of you that don't read any Hellboy. And I could rattle off a whole bunch of different, independent books that were between 6 and 20 issues that I thought were awesome, but that would turn this into a different type of podcast. I'm almost never reading books the day they come out. Ghost Machine is the only comic book company, since it's 3 comics right now, that I read immediately. I typically would wait until all the issues are out for like a volume or a trade, like the first 6, like what Junkyard Joe and Geiger have for the first 2 series, and then I would read it all. There isn't any other book that on Wednesday, I just read all the Ghost Machine books, but then I'd still always have literally like hundreds of comics on backstock that I have to catch up on. Like all those Spawn books, I'm catching up on those. I just don't have time. You know, I like DC books a lot too. We definitely lean more towards DC than Marvel in this house. Although it's not like a war or anything. That's what I like to read. But I still read and reread these Ghost Machine books a lot. Sometimes I'll even reread Ghost Machine books that I've already read instead of reading books I just bought because I really like them. Thank you very much for the question, Andy, and for your compliments. I think that brings us to the very end. Oh, and I forgot to mention the fantastic news earlier. So this is a really good way to wrap up the show before we mention the socials and give you your chance to say whatever you have on your mind. When we continue to do our Redcoat episodes, which will be what we do 2 episodes from now.
Oh, yeah.
So the good news is that from now on, when we record a Redcoat episode, we are going to have our guest co-host, Michael Schwartz, back again. Michael did the last episode of Redcoat with us. He's going to stick around and keep doing those. We were really excited to have him back. He just sent me a PDF of his copy, 2nd issue of his series Armored, and I'm excited to read that. I have it already pulled on my pull list through Comic Hub, and I was able, through my local comic shop, to order a copy of Armored #1, the special red foil J. Lee limited edition one. It's really sweet.
Ooh.
Yes, one day, hopefully Michael will sign it for me. But he's going to be continuing to join us for all of our Redcoat episodes.
Very exciting.
Yeah, it's really, really great. So, excited to have him back, and we have a lot more in store for you in the future. Keep an eye out.
Don't forget to check Instagram for a poll.
Poll.
Poll. It's like poll doesn't sound like a word now.
It's a 2-question survey, or it's a survey. It's a 1-question survey with 2 answers.
2-question survey.
So we want to know
if later, if you could so kindly vote.
Keep your eye on Instagram for the poll we will be putting out about whether or not we should read Geiger Ground Zero or the Blizzard story from the Image 30th Anniversary Anthology next week. We'll have that poll up for a couple of days so that you have time to get your votes in. That was a good idea, Snoggle. Do you have anything else for the show tonight?
No, just gonna be patiently waiting until July to know if my best friend Barney is gonna be okay.
He's gonna be fine. It said rescue. Dog rescue. Next issue. It did.
I know. But that's it. I'm very excited to know what we're going to talk about next week and for the books coming out next week. So, yay. Go team go.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us again on the Ghost Machine Fans Podcast.
Oh,